Hello, and welcome to Once Upon a Time in Black History. I am your host, Tamara Shiloh, author, educator, and owner of the Multicultural Bookstore in Richmond, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada. You can also find us on my website at onceuponatimeInBlackHistory.com. Our shows are sponsored by the Multicultural Bookstore, and if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, please send me an email at tamarashiloh@gmail.com. Alrighty then, let's get this party started. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Once Upon a Time in Black History. My name is Tamara Shiloh, and I am your host. This is the show where we uncover courageous lives and powerful legacies of lesser-known heroes in the fight for justice and equality. Today's story, John Berry Meachum and the Floating Freedom School, takes us to the banks of the Mississippi River in the early 1800s, where one formerly enslaved man refused to let racist laws silence education. This is the remarkable tale of John Berry Meachum and his radical answer to educational oppression, the Floating Freedom School. John Berry Meachum was born enslaved in Virginia in 1789. As a boy, he was taught to read and write by his enslaver's son, and that was a rare and risky opportunity. But John Berry's hunger for knowledge didn't stop there. When he was allowed to earn money, he began saving for something unimaginable: his own freedom. Eventually, John Berry not only purchased his own freedom, but also that of his father, his wife, and several others. He settled in St. Louis, Missouri, a slave state, and became a carpenter, a preacher, and a leader in his community. But most importantly, he became an educator. In 1823, he founded one of the first schools for Black children west of the Mississippi. It was known as the St. Louis African School. Funded with his own money and taught in the basement of his church, John Berry School was a beacon of hope. He believed that education was the foundation of true freedom, both spiritual and civic. But not everybody shared that vision. By the 1840s, Missouri had passed laws making it illegal to teach Black people to read or write, whether they were enslaved or free. Many teachers faced arrest or threats. John Berry School was forcibly shut down by the police. But John Berry was not a man to back down. If Missouri wouldn't allow him to educate Black children on land, then he'd take his school where Missouri laws didn't apply: the Mississippi River. He purchased a steamboat, anchored it in the middle of the river, technically under federal jurisdiction, and turned it into a floating classroom. It became known as the Floating Freedom School. Imagine it, a wooden boat gently rocking on the water, filled with Black children and teenagers learning to read, write, and reason. A classroom surrounded by riverbanks that forbade its very existence. This was not just defiance, it was genius. John Berry used the Floating Freedom School to teach basic literacy, math, and practical trades. He also offered adult education and vocational training. For many, this school wasn't just about learning, it was about liberation. And John Berry didn't stop there either. He was also a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He sheltered freedom seekers in his church basement and even established a fund to purchase the freedom of enslaved people, often training them in trades so they could one day do the same for others. John Berry Meachum passed away in 1854 while preaching from his church pulpit, but his impact didn't die with him. His belief that education is a form of resistance still echoes today. His floating freedom school was a radical act of civil disobedience, proving that even under brutal systems of oppression, Black ingenuity, resilience, and community could not be extinguished. In a world that often tried to deny him personhood, John Berry Meachum responded with purpose. He knew that freedom isn't given, it's built. And sometimes it floats. Okay, thanks for listening to Once Upon a Time in Black History. My name is Tamara Shiloh. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might be inspired by John Berry Meachum's story. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and remember, the stories we tell shape the future we build. And oh yeah, don't forget to visit the Multicultural Bookstore for your next great read. You can get there by visiting multiculturalbookstore.com. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Once Upon a Time in Black History. For more information on this topic and others, visit the Multicultural Bookstore at multiculturalbookstore.com. And again, if you want to advertise in our podcast for a mere $25, please contact me at tamarashiloh@gmail.com. See you next time.